Domestic violence. For many, it is a well-hidden family secret. It causes victims to suffer in silence, and at its worst, the thing that breaks that silence is the screaming headlines of the loss of lives, like the more than a dozen women and children who've died due to domestic abuse in the Fox Valley since 1990. Red silhouettes honor their memories, tell their stories, because they no longer can. Staff, volunteers, community partners, and donors of Harbor House domestic abuse programs have worked tirelessly to speak out against domestic abuse and to offer a united front of haven, help, and hope to those in need.
We should be outraged about domestic violence. We can't put up with domestic violence. And I'll tell you, there's no such thing in my mind anymore as the well-meaning silent majority. That's not good enough anymore.
Harbor House Domestic Abuse Program's mission is to lead a community-wide partnership in the prevention of domestic violence and abuse, and to offer safety and support to diverse families in crisis. Crisis, intervention, and prevention work is done to help survivors know that change is possible within our walls. We help infants on up to those in their 80s. These are survivors who today may not be able to speak for themselves, but tomorrow most certainly will speak out, educate, and stand strong.
I was in the middle of a divorce, well, really a separation, and I went to my girls' psychologist because they wanted to meet with me. And in that process, they determined that I was verbally and emotionally abused.
I was targeted by a friend who I thought was a friend, and I was stalked.
El abuso de mi expareja tomaba mucho y pues cuando tomaba se ponía violento.
Little by little, he would start calling me names, he would start hitting me.
It went from yelling to a slap, then a punch. From yelling, slap, punch, then kick.
I tried leaving him, and when I did, he hit me. He threatened me and told me that if he couldn't have me, no one would.
If you are standing in front of a mirror with your eye this big, and you're saying, I am not a woman that's battered, are you serious?
It got a little more unsettled at home, so it was determined that anytime I didn't feel comfortable, I could come here. So I came here in March.
If he's taking things from you and managing your money and keeping you isolated from your family and your friends, you are being abused.
Harbor House's main shelter location and comprehensive program center is in Appleton, and it opened its doors in 1984. In 1998, we opened an outreach office in Chilton to meet the needs of Calumet County families. Harbor House provides a safe haven for women and children fleeing abuse. The average length of stay is 5 weeks. Donated food, linens, clothing, personal care items, and more make it a program center of immense support as survivors begin on their paths of healing.
When I first came to Harbor House, I thought that I was only being abused physically and verbally. I found out it was sexually, I found out it was financially, it was everything.
Generally, between 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 women will be a victim of some kind of gender-based violence in their lifetime. That's pretty startling.
Everybody thinks that the physical, what they hear of the most, is all domestic violence is, but it's not.
I think the support that exists out there for domestic violence victims is wildly different now than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we'd maybe hand them a card and say, if you want to call this person, go ahead. Now we have entire organizations developed that support victims, that give them advocacy, provide support in court hearings and that sort of stuff. So it's a wildly different scene, even in just a single generation.
Northeast Wisconsin is not immune. Whether you realize it, someone you know has been affected by domestic violence or abuse. It's evidenced by an average of 32 crisis calls per day to our 24-hour helpline. More than 400 women and children stay in shelter annually, and another 1,000 use other services, such as legal advocacy, support groups, one-on-one counseling, referrals, and more.
I didn't know that life was different than how I was raised until I came to Harbor House and realized that I have a choice.
You allowing yourself to start over and you're not being a victim anymore, you a survivor.
They helped me get through a bad time. They helped me get my feet underneath me. They helped me get in touch with resources that, being a middle-class stay-at-home wife, I didn't know anything about them.
I used shelter, I used the legal advocate, and more importantly, I took a lot of advice from the advocates here at Harbor House by seeking counseling.
I thought that I had hit rock bottom when I got here, but it didn't take me till months later for me to realize that I didn't hit rock bottom. This was my new start.
Domestic abuse affects us all. Families are shattered. Employers see diminished performance and increased absenteeism. Taxpayers see higher costs for human services, law enforcement, mental health services, and corrections. Schools see more classroom disruptions, and children with more obstacles to learning.
I think everybody has to be willing to learn about it and to realize what the signs are, what the warning signs are, how to do or what to do to help.
The way to stop it is being aware and speaking out and talking about it.
The more aware we make people in the community, the more people will step up and help those who are abused.
Harbor House is working with the Appleton Police Department and the Outagamie County District Attorney's Office. Officers from across the Fox Valley are attending in one place, but it's a good example of the education piece for Harbor House and the trust and cooperation we feel that the Police Department for Harbor House and the District Attorney's Office.
Harbor House is a United Way agency. We also receive support from government grants, individual contributions, fundraising events, perpetrator fees, investments, and non-government grants, including a project grant from the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region that made this video possible. Community awareness and education is key in ending the generational cycle of abuse and attitudes associated with oppression and men's violence against women. Harbor House is an active community leader, bringing training and education to various groups, workplaces, faith communities, and organizations. We work within the schools, bringing an anti-violence message to 10,000 students and educators annually through our Prevention Education Initiative. We provide outreach to traditionally underserved populations, women of color, older women, those living with disabilities or from diverse cultures, and LGBTQ victims. Harbor House also works with perpetrators to prevent future abuse. Through our Domestic Violence Intervention Program, we coordinate 26-week education courses for batterers.
I've survived. I've moved on. I think it means a lot that I can actually get in a relationship again.
I want to be able to do what the Harbor House has done for me, and that's help other women.
Y como te decía, económicamente te ayudan porque cuando te ponen en centros o programas para calificar como un departamento de bajo ingreso, te ayudan a conseguir trabajo. Ya es como te empiezas a desenvolver y una vez que te estabilizas.
Everything is going well. I'm dating again.
Plan to go back to school for occupational therapy assistant.
Harbor House envisions a day when domestic violence will no longer be a problem in our community. We hope to eventually put ourselves out of business. But to do that, we need your help. Volunteer. Demand zero tolerance of domestic abuse. Support legislation that assures survivor safety. Listen to and support victims. Call the police when you hear a disturbance. And provide in-kind or monetary donations.
This place has to exist, because if it don't, people like me won't exist.
Pues yo creo que es un refugio para la mujer maltratada, y es bien difícil si no hubiera no hubiera muchas mujeres con decisiones.
Without Harbor House, I don't know where I would be.
I really believe that Harbor House saved my life, not just my physical life, but my emotional well-being.
I don't know where I would be if it was not for Harbor House. I would probably actually either be still with him or dead.
Harbor House can't go away.
If it wasn't for God and the Harbor House, I'll be dead.